Welcome to the Holochronicles.
This is Andy.
This is Josh.
Episode 1 of the Holochronicles. Shout out to the BMB.
The BMB, the Blue Milk Brigade. Yeah, what's going on, man?
Hey, I'm excited about this. We have a podcast with a legit name, with our own legit music, and maybe one or two original ideas that we'd like to share.
We've done a few of these, huh?
Yeah, we have. A little off the cuff, under the radar, but there's no...
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's because, obviously we're passionate about some Star Wars, and we're passionate about a lot of things, which, by the way, we're going to talk about today. You want to go over that? What are we talking about?
Well, we'll start off with the news of the day coming from the Star Wars universe. Our main topic of discussion will be collecting Star Wars stuff, how to do it, some tips, some things we've learned over the years, and how to get exactly what you want for whether you have just like a limited space, a little corner of a room where you'd like to put some Star Wars stuff, or whether you have a wall, or whether you even have a man cave, or any space, fill it with exactly what you want.
Good, yeah. And why don't we start with just giving a little background on us? How about that? How about the BMB?
So the BMB,
legendary, to be
unofficially started a few years ago. Me and a buddy of mine named Sheldon, we've been friends for a long time, and we kind of reconnected. We have sons that are the same age, and they played baseball together a few years ago, and they're friends, and we both realized each other's love of all things Star Wars, and so we'd kind of keep each other posted when we'd see things, on Craigslist or OfferUp, and just, hey, is this something that interests you? And
you're talking about collectibles, right? You're talking about toys. You're talking about posters. You're talking about
specifically.
Anything.
We were talking about original figures,
right?
And so, so through that, it was actually at the ballpark one day. I was bringing something to Sheldon, a Darth Vader case full of original figures and weapons.
The coolest thing ever when
Yeah.
you're at the ballpark.
Yeah, and I bump into our mutual friend Trevor, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, this is for Sheldon," because he knows Sheldon.
Sure.
And but he did not know at the time that Sheldon was an avid Star Wars fan, and so he's like, "What do you got there?" So I showed him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I used to have that one and this one, and oh yeah, man, I remember playing with those." And
Got super nostalgic on you, huh?
yeah, and so that kind of got him going a little bit, and then he's a friend with you, and so how'd that work out with you and him?
Well, yeah, that was interesting because, I've since I was a kid, loved Star Wars, and I had a few toys, and, they never made it. They didn't make it through the playing and the moving and all this stuff. And I remember I had one, I'd made some crazy purchases, and I won't go into that, but I kind of had a small collection that I'd secretly bought with, the money I shouldn't have spent on it. And Trevor's like, "Hey, don't you, one day," and apparently it was after meeting you, he's like, don't you have Star Wars stuff? Don't you collect it? I'm like, well, yeah. I really, it was literally in boxes and like a old military ammo case, crazy stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, I kind of collect it, and, I definitely enjoy Star Wars. But he's like, well, hey, Andy and you and I are acquaintances. We weren't really friends, but we definitely hung out a few times. And
That's some mutual friends.
And he's like, well, Andy and this other guy, Sheldon, who I didn't know at the time, they've got a group. So it came to me as like a full club. You guys were already well established. You probably had T-shirts in my mind, And he's like, well, there's this collector group I know of, and Andy's in charge of it. And he kind of made a to-do about it, which you played into, and you can go into that. But like, we'll see if you get invited in.
Yeah, so I remember that, and like you said, I knew of you, and we had played some Halo with each other back in the day.
Sure.
But
maybe one golf trip. I don't know.
Yeah, so Trevor says to me, "Hey, Josh likes Star Wars stuff too, and he says he has some stuff." I'm like, "Oh, really?" Okay.
No, and that's the truth right there. It wasn't about maybe incorporating another member into your group. It was about
seeing what you had.
Absolutely. Pillaging his collection is what it was.
It was like, okay, all right. And so my impression, I've never told you this, but my impression when I first came over to see, oh, Josh likes Star Wars stuff too. Because there's a lot of people that say they like Star Wars,
Sure.
and that they have Star Wars stuff. Like the new art teacher at Huntington is like, oh yeah, I like Star Wars. I have a T-shirt, and I'm like, and it makes me chuckle. And I'm like, want to pat her on the head. Yeah, that's nice. And but when I came over, it was I noticed you had collections.
Right, like little pockets of.
You had a couple of tubs of Star Wars. You had a few tubs of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You got some swords on the wall. You had
Thank
collections.
you. You're really painting the really cool picture over here. What else?
No, none of
I
it
noticed
was like,
that you were a huge nerd.
well, that
Or
would
a closet nerd.
That would be there's a kettle being called black by a pot somewhere.
No. Yeah, at the time, everything's changed now.
But I remember, okay, well, so like he's into stuff, and it was all stuff that I like too. So it wasn't like I was mocking you or anything.
Sure,
even on the inside,
right?
But
no, you were marking me. Is what you were doing.
Well, we did make a transaction.
We made one transaction. It was a very interesting one, especially given that it was a Star Wars transaction, and for what I received for what I gave.
Yeah, I think you came out on top on that.
I think I did too, but it was funny because it wasn't Star Wars related. Now, the reason we're talking about this is because if you're listening out there, it's kind of fun. I would say if you're somebody that enjoys Star Wars, but you have a few things, right? Even if it's a T-shirt, maybe it's 3 T-shirts. It doesn't matter.
Target sells Star Wars T-shirts.
They sure do.
They're great.
Lots of them. I think it's what I realized that I was missing was the connection with somebody else that you could be very comfortable with and just like, man, tell me, check out this toy.
Look at this totally cool.
No, don't touch it.
40-year-old toy that I just got.
So anyway, go on. Sorry, that's I'm just kind of pointing that out. Is that this was kind of like oh hey, there's other people out there.
Yeah.
It's like a support group.
Air quote, normal people.
Normal people, yeah. But they have jobs.
Yeah. So Trevor's a
wives.
cop.
I mean, you're married. That's fantastic.
I mean, all of us are. We have families and careers. And
Right. We still collect toys.
And we collect toys. No, but Trevor's a policeman. I'm a teacher. Sheldon works at a hospital, and Josh, you are a small business owner.
Yeah, it's like it sounds like a great team. Like we could get anything done.
Like the A-Team.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a squad, there it is.
Hashtag Star Wars squad. But no, you're right. It's just and over the last few years, we've gotten to become buddies, and we do things together, and our kids know each other now, and
it's cool.
It's not weird if we're around each other.
But go back. Hold on, I'm going to pause you. Okay. Go back. What was our first transaction?
The first transaction,
because you have a fantastic memory. You're going to be better than me.
First transaction was I had a Generation 1 complete Optimus Prime.
Exactly. See, which is hilarious because it has nothing to do with Star Wars. So that's why it was your mark. You didn't even have to give up a Star Wars item at the time.
Well,
but you keyed off. This is the thing. You keyed off something I said. I remember that too. I'm like, man, I told you about my collection, and which wasn't specifically Star Wars, but I went off the res as far as Star Wars goes and talked about Transformers a little bit, and you latched on.
I don't know if maybe we need to get to this right now, but it wasn't because I was swindling.
No, I'm teasing you.
No, I know, but there was. So I traded that to you for it was
transport.
It was a Rebel transport carrier.
Yeah. Which was interesting that I gave that up because it was the only one I had. It wasn't like an extra.
Yeah.
It was really weird, and I don't think I cared for it. It was weird. I don't remember why I did that. I think I just wanted to make a trade.
Well, there was a getting the whole reason why we collect the old toys from our past anyway is sentimentality, and you have a connection with the Transformers
with the Prime,
with your brother.
Yep, I did.
And so there you went off and you told me about that, and so I was like, all right, this is cool.
That's a pro tip, by the way. Connect.
Find their weaknesses.
Find the
connections.
It. That's a pro tip. And by the way, if you listen for very long, you'll find that Andy is the master of the connecting. Of the exploitation.
I deal with the people.
listen.
At that time, and it was what, 3 years ago? Was it
Yeah,
longer?
it feels like it's been longer, but I don't think it was that long. I think it's been 2 years, to be honest with you. It hasn't been 3 yet. We'll check, but we'll fact check that. But don't worry. We have plenty of episodes to get that.
So at that time, I was getting rid of, because as you had little collections here and there of things, and not little, but like bins full of things.
Right.
I was getting rid of my collections to focus on a collection.
Right.
I had come to the point where I had a lot of stuff.
Right.
And it was just enough to be, I'd have cool little things here and there, but it wasn't like there was no continuity to it.
It was just enough to annoy your wife.
Yeah, definitely. And so,
you wanted to. I think I caught you, or you caught me, right as you were like, I'm grabbing on to a collection. I'm going to make it happen.
Because here's what I was doing. I was trying to collect everything.
Right.
And all the cool stuff, like the OG Optimus Prime, but that was the only Transformer that I had.
Right.
It was awesome.
Right.
But it was the only one I had, so it didn't fit. And I had a ton of G.I. Joe stuff.
Right. Tons.
Like,
Still do,
I
don't you?
have a lot. I had a lot. I have some left that for sentimentality reasons with my brothers, I will not get rid of. But I just had I went through a process. I got to the point, and here is my biggest tip for anybody that wants to collect anything. Make it specific so that you can have a wall of this and a corner of the room with that, and then you can just it ends up looking like a collection room.
Right.
Where things go to be collected,
Right.
and that can be cool. But for me, I like the organization, I like the presentation, I like the continuity in it. And so for me, I was getting rid of the Transformers. I was whittling down all of the G.I. Joe stuff that I had until I just got to the absolute bare things that I wanted, so I could start building up my Star Wars collection, because that is what. Even though I played with G.I. Joes more when I was a kid, because I just kind of caught the tail end of Star Wars.
Right.
And I loved it, but G.I. Joe was the first thing I did when I got home from
American
school.
hero.
A real American hero. And they had elbow joints. It's like,
so advanced.
the figures were a little more playable.
The first time you saw Snake Eyes, what were you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to buy the rest.
Yeah.
Right?
We had an Uzi.
You had a freaking Uzi, man.
And so, the half-hour cartoons after school, they were great. So, even though I played more with the G.I. Joes, I wanted to collect the Star Wars stuff, because that has nostalgia. I played with G.I. Joes, but I loved
But you didn't
Star
watch,
Wars.
G.I. Joe's cartoons, like the feeling you get when you watch the Star Wars movies is...
That was something.
Because I'm born in 77, you're born in 77, right? Fact. We're old-ish. But 77, obviously we weren't watching it as babies.
No.
So we had to catch up. We've told this before on a deal, but that was my thing. Is I remember the reason that I would before really collecting when we met up was I would just go into a comic book store or something, somebody that had and I'd see I remember the first packaged toy in a plastic bag I bought was the Vader that I have up there, the Jedi Vader, Return of the Jedi in a packaged Vader, and it was $30. I didn't make $30 in a day at the time, and I remember just saying, I'm going to buy that and then I just tucked it into a drawer, and because I remember as a kid, I remember those toys and the feeling you got, and I would say anyone out there, if you listen to this and you look, you may have searched Star Wars and found us. Thank you. Thanks for listening, listeners. But any of you would know we're all collectors. I think human beings are just collectors, and to some degree, we collect stuff or we collect memories or whatever. And
I guess it would be part of that nesting idea. You want to be surrounded by things that make you happy and make you comfortable.
Absolutely.
And for you and me, that stuff is Star Wars stuff. And so, like I was saying, if you're going to collect, figure out what you want.
Yep.
Like for me, the priority was to get all of the original figures. And which is nice about the Star Wars things, even though some of them can get to be pretty expensive, there is a finite number. Like G.I. Joe's, they came out with 12 to 30 new figures every year.
Right.
And they still are coming out with
Yep.
figures. And so,
And it's kind of like what's happening right now with the current Star Wars, where it's like, oh my gosh, there's
more
the Lego version and the non-Lego version,
the Black Series and
the Black,
the
Black
3 and the 3.75 and the 6 inch
and the 12, hey, let's go.
So it could be never ending. For me, it can get a little overwhelming. That might be the OCD in me, but
Absolutely.
I wanted to get the figures complete with all of their accessories. That's what I set out to do.
And you're talking about the original vintage from the first 3 movies.
Yes.
The
From
first trilogy.
1977 to 1985.
Yeah.
Those. And then along the way.
And that had a finite number. That's what you were looking at. It's like, look, you can accomplish this collection as well within the group of like figures. Obviously, there's plenty of shoot offs that are crazy and still are crazy and fun to find now. But
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I knew along the way, just because sometimes you buy groups of things or a lot of things just to get 1 or 2 of those items,
right.
And then you turn around and you either sell the other ones off or you use them for trade, and maybe you pick up some vehicles along the way and some play sets, and then pretty soon, once I got done collecting or gathering all of those original figures, I didn't just have the figures. I had a lot of other stuff along with it that I'd gotten along the way, so that now it's a collection. It's not just the figures. It's turned into something, and along the way, it's like, yeah, I could have gotten this and I could have gotten those things, and those are really awesome. Those are original 1977, this and that, but they're not the figures. You got to stay on the prize, eyes on the prize. Otherwise, there is so much Star Wars stuff. So much.
Yeah.
Everything. Toothbrushes to lunch pails to
cookie jars
to pillow sheets. Yes, there are cookie jars.
Lots and lots of cookie jars.
And so like if you don't have a goal in mind, and this is true in anything, if you don't have a goal in mind, then how will you know when you've reached it? And so
your goal,
that was important to
your
me.
goal was to get every vintage mass manufactured figure, and you introduced me some stuff that like I didn't know. Like I just didn't know. I'm like, we got the original 12, right? The first 12. And then the last 17. Those are 2 things I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, you may not know that either. Andy, tell me, what are the last 17?
The last 17.
And we're talking about vintage Star Wars figures, 3.75 inch Star Wars figures from those years, 77 to 85. Well, actually, 17 is 85, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about...
So the last 17 were the last 17 figures produced, and they came out in 1985. This was a couple years after the Return of the Jedi, and it was at the tail end of kind of the popularity, the wave,
the Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
And so these came out a couple years after, and they weren't super popular.
They were obscure figures for the
a lot of them were like there's a group of them that are just like Jabba's palace figures that would kind of be in the background when you pan across Luke or or Jabba. They were off in a corner, and so they weren't.
And some of them were only produced in Europe, right?
Well, the yak face was only produced in Europe, and so that made him even more obscure and rare, and so. So these last 17 figures weren't super popular. They weren't overly collected, and they're rare now. Amongst toys that figures that are 40 years old, 35 to 40 years old, they are considered rare of the rare.
Right.
And they range, at least as of right now, complete. There's an Ewok that you can probably still get for around $60.
Yeah.
Complete, all the way to. Like the yak face is, if he's in good shape, $500, $600.
Right.
And
that's out of a package, by the way. That's loose.
And that's loose. And they rival the blue snaggletooth. And so, which is an original.
The legendary.
Yeah, which is an original Star Wars, A New Hope figure that didn't get produced in mass quantities. That ended up being the red snaggletooth. But the blue guy did come out with a play set, and he was part of the Star Wars universe, but he just wasn't it wasn't intentional. He wasn't made to be mass produced. He was just part of this little thing. And
They're just making toys, man.
yeah. And
Okay, so all that being said, so you've made some good points. We're talking about, that's a little bit of the history of us. Why don't we bring that in for a landing? So we made our first trade, and what really happened after that was kind of the camaraderie that we formed within the group. Yeah. This group that I thought was already established, turns out was established when I joined it.
Cutting edge.
Got it.
We decided to let you hang out with
Thank
us.
you. So, and which was kind of cool because, you know, some of the things we would share is, you know, and we'll talk a little bit about how to find good deals and stuff like that, and maybe in a later cast. But we're giving you some history. But we found that together with the trades that we could make with each other was, to me, was almost more fun than getting what I wanted. It was like, and you talked about getting the lot, and so I'd get the lot and I'd have 3 extra figures. And I remember when we first made our, I don't know what to call it, our care package for Trevor, which is like, welcome to the Collectors Club. And we just kind of had like these extra figures, and we charged good prices for them, you know, I mean, fair, like, hey, what was our rule? It was like the B&B price.
B&B price, yeah. And so what's great, and if you can do this, if you can find other people that have this,
and you can,
and they're out
and
there,
you can.
they're definitely out there. You just got to go find them, and I would first ask like your friends, like, hey, is this something you enjoy? Is you
Sure.
like doing this? Because it's always better when you do it with your buddies, and
there's plenty of social networking now. I mean, locally,
yeah,
Facebook. There's going to be a club in
OfferUp, Craigslist.
Yep.
You'll find people.
You'll find a club. You'll find
meet
a
people.
oh my gosh, a whole trove of
You'll
them.
find more than you probably
Than
wish
you want.
Yeah. And so the cool thing about the 4 of us is that we kind of just let each other know about when we find something, or if we see something, or you'll ask each other questions, or like, hey, I got one of these, you guys need this, or now it's like it really does support. We support each other in this. It's not a support group, but
I think it is sort of, yeah.
But we find things, we help each other out. We, you know, and even if the answer is like, no, I don't have the money right now, or like, nah, I don't want it, I'm not interested in that, or we keep each other kind of ear to the ground, and so we have helped each other find things and work towards completing whatever it is we're trying to get.
Right.
And it's been mutually beneficial for all of us. And I would say that if you can find a group of guys or gals or whatever that have that same interest, you guys will end up helping each other out a lot more than you're trying to beat them to the deal.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good segue, is like, that's what we discovered, is it was as much fun to find that deal and share it with everyone. And I just love that, you know, you would find, and you really are the spearhead to finding lots, and by lot, you know, like a lot of stuff, and you would buy it as a lot, and then you would like, I want these 2 things, who wants this? And we just kind of pick through it, and we'd exchange or trade. It's just a ton of fun. So really, there's a history of the BMB. And by the way, the first thing you do when you find 1 or 2 people that like to collect stuff is you make up a name. You have to make up a name for your little group. And
Yeah.
we settled on the Blue Milk Brigade. Oh my gosh, so original.
And we've got stickers.
We got stickers. We got a couple logos.
My wife owns a Cricket, and she made us some T-shirts.
Yeah, we got T-shirts. All right, so that's very important. That was actually step 1. Before anyone collected anything, we had to make a T-shirt. So there you go. There's the Blue Milk Brigade. And so what's next? What are you going to talk about now? So we got you want to talk about news?
Let's do some news.
Because we're all about, and look, this is episode 1. I think that was our history lesson, right? So if somebody listens, they'll be like, oh, I get these guys. We're just collectors. We're people that love Star Wars. We collect memories. We collect toys. We collect cookie jars. We collect everything, all right? So...
if the craft is seaworthy, yeah, I sail, yeah.
So, and we also just like to talk about Star Wars. Sometimes we'll just hash it over. This guy over here, Andy, he'll pose a question about a random fact in a movie, and we'll talk for half an hour about it. And you do it too. If you found this, you nerds, you do it too. So listen up. It might get interesting. It might not. I don't even know.
You know, maybe you might even reach the lofty goals of having like a raffle.
You might have a raffle where you win the guts of the Death Star trash compactor. You might have a raffle
Yes.
where that happens, and now it's a pen holder
Everybody
on my desk.
walks away with a door prize. Hey, that's a great pen holder.
It's the best.
So, Star Wars news. The news of the day, what's been happening. Josh, I know you are into Galaxy of Heroes, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
Yeah, the app. Yep.
What's latest with that?
Boy, there's a lot of pods out there on that, and so I encourage anyone. I am by no means an expert on that game. I've watched the podcasts of the people, so hashtag like Cubs fan. There's all these guys. They're wacky, but it's a great game. It's a great little app you can put on your phone. It's free to play, or you can definitely pay a lot of money. My favorite part about the app is that the characters are so cool. It's like I'm just collecting, it's like a card collection, and I get to play with them. And I was showing Andy, and he was rolling his eyes at me, but in a nice way. That I was like, oh, check out this character, and then watch what she can do, and then you do like special moves and all this stuff. So the news in Galaxy of Heroes is currently Jedi Revan just came out.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Old Republic guy. Yeah. You had to form the team of all these Old Republic characters that the game just released, which was pretty fun. They had a new Wookiee, who I didn't know about. They got this little Twi'lek that her name's Mission. You get kind of a drunken kung fu guy samurai, which is kind of fun.
Like Jackie Chan.
Yeah, it was great. His name's like Jolie, and so we call him Angelina Jolie. But anyway, So there's all these great characters. But that's the latest news right there for Jedi Revan, which is I don't know what to do with that.
Okay. Well, there's
so check the game out.
Recently announced a new television series.
Now this one's so we have some theory crafting on this one, right? We got some.
Yeah. So the Mandalorian, Jon Favreau directed, which is
very cool.
Which is cool.
Iron Man, that's very cool.
Yeah, he's like legit.
Also, Swingers, the star of Swingers.
Also,
one of the best movies ever. If you haven't seen it, kids,
you're
go
so
look
money.
It up. You're so money. You don't even know it.
So the Mandalorian. First of all, just the title alone. I mean, anybody that's a Star Wars fan knows Mandalorian equals Boba Fett equals cool guy.
Right.
But it's not about Boba Fett. All we have gotten so far is a picture of a man wearing a suit of armor that is Mandalorian.
Armor, which is what Boba Fett wore.
Right.
Who was not a Mandalorian.
And this guy may not be a Mandalorian either, but he is wearing the suit of a Mandalorian.
Right.
The armor of the Mandalorian warrior. And we've also gotten a picture of his rifle.
Right.
And the picture of his rifle, for the diehards, they freaked because it was a lifelike rendition of the cartoon Christmas special, the Star Wars Christmas special, where Boba Fett was first introduced and he was riding a dinosaur and he had this weird forked rifle. And
it's over his shoulder on his back.
Yeah, it's like slung across his back. And so when we got the Instagram picture of the gun, like the diehards knew right away, hey, I know that. I've seen that before. And everyone freaked out and was like, that's from the cartoon. And like the first time ever somebody thought the cartoon was actually worth going to see because it's weird.
I'm telling you, man, that picture's awesome.
It is.
I'll tell you what, the helmet is really awesome.
Yeah, so I
very, very like a polished chrome looking.
Yeah, and the colors on it reminded me of some of if you've watched any of the Clone Wars or even enjoy Star Wars Legos, the Death Watch Mandalorian armor is kind of that color too. So I wondered if there was a connection with there. But you had a theory about.
I have a theory
about what it's about. What
so
the theme is.
Here's the problem: is that I'm trying to pull some memory because I went through the 3 books, starting with Aftermath, which is under the new canon. Okay, there's some great books out there, obviously, now with Disney, under the new canon. Aftermath was the time after Jedi, but before the First Order. And so there's a small, and Aftermath does a great job of following another group of heroes but also kind of the fall of the Empire.
Yeah, because there's a lot up in the air.
There's a lot going on, and the Battle of Jakku is part of the Aftermath, a 3-book series. But what kind of came out and didn't really grab a hold, there was a thread going through that, a story thread that was going through there, was about kind of these. The only thing that I kind of these old west kind of vigilantes, and they're going from town to town, and they're relieving the town from some pressure from some bad guys. All right, they're either gangsters or whatever, and it's just kind of showing how the galaxy is resisting. The galaxy is taking back some of their stuff, and he finds this. I can't even remember the character's name, so I apologize. This is just something I kind of thought of tonight when he said. I said I have this theory, and I need to go back and read the books again a second time. But the theory is that he finds some Mandalorian armor. Now, whether it's Boba's, which I don't think it is because I believe it's on Jakku, so it's not Boba's. But he finds this armor and he puts it on, and it becomes almost like his sheriff's badge. Like, this is what he represents. And he walks into the town and he starts liberating towns from the oppression that they have. And so my theory with the Mandalorian is we might be looking at kind of a Western style. And the only thing about looking at the picture, though, is he looks pretty polished up, where I envision when I listen to the book of more kind of a patchwork guy who's wearing this Mandalorian armor. But what happens is that the towns and the cities really, or the towns that he liberates, quote unquote, really get behind this guy, and he starts forming kind of a militia. I don't know, whatever.
So do you
think, a following.
Do you think? Let me ask you a question here. So do you think that the Mandalorian, whoever this main character is always the Mandalorian? He's known whether he's wearing it or not, or he puts it on and becomes the hero, and he's just a regular dude. But as soon as
he's totally a regular dude. I think the Mandalorian as a title must stand for both. What you're saying, one, the armor is Mandalorian armor, even though he's not a Mandalorian. I don't remember. We read the description. It happens at the same time I'm talking about. I think they're following this. I think what they're trying to do is what they might be trying to do, which is totally cool.
Yeah.
Is get a gritty kind of a Westworld type of story arc from Star Wars. Which, by the way, Star Wars is a spaghetti western to begin with, right? It's already the Han Solo shooting from the hip and the dusty out west feel of Tatooine, but the Mandalorian, I think, is going to follow that type of same story, which I would really enjoy. If it's kind of about the little people in the galaxy type of thing, and it probably is going to have zero to do with the Force and zero to do with Jedi, and which would you and I agree absolutely love about Rogue One, and even Solo.
Well, yeah, and if they throw in just the occasional, maybe we get a cameo of a known character, and it doesn't even have to be a main character, but like the Clone Wars, they had a couple characters that ended up making their way into Rogue One, and it was just oh yeah, I know that guy, I've seen him before, and just for those that care enough to look at the names of the characters to see if they've been somewhere else, I would imagine that there's going to be a character or two. Maybe it's a cameo that we know.
Here's what I want. I want the grit that I think that a Jon Favreau can bring. Mm-hmm. The grit. I want it to be a gritty Western. I want it to be style. All right. I want there to be a hero, a normal hero. He's got the gun. All he's wearing is a helmet and some armor. That's what I think the Mandalorian really stands for. Is that he becomes more with the armor on, even though it doesn't make him any better. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So the Mandalorians, they had a reputation being warriors. They were kind of the 300.
Right. There you go.
Ancient Greece,
right.
And so whether he's actually Mandalorian or not, when you see that armor, I think it's something that's kind of a known quantity in the universe. Oh, hey,
that's a very distinct
attention.
Helmet.
Yes, attention.
I love that helmet too.
And And I was just thinking of this when you were talking about it, that maybe, and I'll take your theory one step further.
All right.
From the Western, the guy coming and liberating towns from
Right.
either Klingon, not like Star Trek.
Jeez, man,
like,
you scared the hell out of me just then.
like Imperial Klingon forces that haven't relinquished, that haven't
No, and that's
totally
what it is.
given
Little
up,
factions that are still,
or it's gangsters like the Hutts, or
right.
Black Sun or Red Dawn, trying to take over some things to gain some footholds. You've got this lone guy who's, like you said, liberating these towns, but maybe it takes on a little bit of an A-Team feel.
Oh, could
Like
you
he was
imagine?
once a soldier of fortune. Now, if you can find him, maybe you can hire the Mandalorian.
Can you imagine him just like lifting up his mask a little bit and stuffing a cigar in there and just being like, I love it when a plan comes together.
He's
He's
like
no
a robot.
good to me, Dad. I'm trying to do Boba's voice. I can't do Boba's voice. I love it when a plan comes together.
That's great.
Yeah, so anyway, The Mandalorian, very exciting. That's coming out fall of 2019.
Very cool. Very excited
Look,
about that.
I think, and we've made pods that no one will listen to about this. I think that these offshoots are the best thing for the Star Wars universe. And Jon Favreau, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like these offshoots where they get real, and that's why I kind of latched onto the whole Western thing. I think they're going to get real with these. Thank you, current Star Wars canon for all your mad mystical BS, but they're gonna get real with these dirty, gritty. There's no force involved at the time. That kind of thing is what I feel like. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, well,
That's my personal thoughts.
If you even go back to like the San Diego Comic-Con from this year, the biggest news coming out of it was that they were going to do another season of Clone Wars. Right? That's new
People
canon.
love that stuff.
That's new canon, right? Since they did a Control-Alt-Delete on the old stuff, which
How do they bring Thrawn back? Is my gosh. I wish they could get Thrawn right.
I know.
They screwed up on Thrawn. No, well, not in Clone Wars. I mean, but how do we? The Thrawn from before they hit Control-Alt-Delete was really cool.
Yeah.
So
Well, there was some really cool stuff that I still think they should do a Shadows of the Empire redo.
oh right.
That would be awesome. Except it involves characters that we already know, and we'd have to use different people, and that would bother some people.
Oh, of course.
Of course it would. Of course it would. We can't change
The Black
directors.
Sun.
We can't change directors one time in a movie without people throwing a fit about it.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, there is a show that's out right now called Resistance. It's another cartoon.
Have not seen it.
It's on the to-do list. It looks really good. Everybody that I follow on Twitter that is in that Star Wars universe loves it. So
What's the gist? I haven't even read
I have
one plot.
Well, I have taken a different route. I have chosen
Oh, okay.
to
Good.
not find out anything
Good,
about
good.
it, so that when I can see it with fresh eyes.
Okay, then don't tell me what you don't know.
Okay, no problem. The last thing in the news is not directly Star Wars related. It is Mark Hamill related.
Which,
I mean, he's pretty Star Wars.
until the last episode was pretty much Star Wars.
Squadron 42. It's a new video game that's coming out that features Mark Hamill as a character, and his character looks exactly like him. The CGI in it
Fantastic.
is really good. Every character that had a speaking voice in this, I don't know, it was probably a 4 or 5 minute trailer for this video game was recognizable. It was somebody famous. It was Gary Oldman. It was, everybody that spoke was recognizable, male, female. You could not only recognize the voice, but the face with it. It was that person, but in a video game. And it looked really cool. Not exactly sure when it comes out, but it's not out yet. And it's called Squadron 42.
Good on you, Mark Hamill.
Good on you. Way to keep the lights on, finding work now that Luke's no longer with us.
Well, and the Joker,
Yeah, true.
You know.
True. The Joker. Just a quick circle back with the collecting. Josh, was there any like story collecting that really stood out to you that was like funny or humorous or was like awesome that you totally scored?
Oh man,
Anything come to mind?
I'm probably not gonna have as many as yours. Yeah, I just have one. I told one. It was really weird. And it's like a friend of my wife. Which is funny. This is what we talked about at the beginning, where you're gonna find people that love Star Wars. So, her kid or her husband, like was closet collecting stuff, and it was all like current stuff, So a lot of episode 1 through 3, like not by current, I mean like he must have gathered some stuff
the
up
2000s.
in the 2000s. He gathered some stuff up. He threw it in a bin too. He threw it in a box or whatever, and then some of the more recent stuff. And so she called up and she's like, "Hey, we're having a garage sale. We're moving. I know your husband likes Star Wars, which it sucks that she knew that. But anyway, means my wife's talking too much. I need to talk to her about that. But
Get her in line.
Gotta put the tape on my T-shirt when I'm wearing the Stormtrooper, whatever. So I get the call and she wants $40 for sight unseen, really, for boxes of stuff. So I drive up and I'm looking at it. It's like weird masks, Darth Maul rubber masks and just kind of creepy stuff. I'm like, you know what? It's got so much Star Wars stuff. Junk or not, 40. I said, I'll give you 60. And I took, more than what she had. And we went through all that stuff, and I went, maybe one gem in there. I'm like, oh, man, I'm just going through it. And so I kind of made this little pile, and I did throw some stuff away. Oh, I'm sorry. It just drives me. I threw some stuff away. I'm sorry. Somebody out there's like, you son of a... They don't even know what it is, but they probably would have wanted it. I threw some stuff away. And I'm going through this final box, and what ultimately happened is that my brother has a young son. He loves Star Wars, and it was like his birthday, and I'm like, $40, it's all yours. So I actually, I'm out 20.
Did
okay?
okay.
Yeah, I'm all right. So I go through this final box, and in it is this piece of plastic. That's all you can describe it as. A piece of plastic shaped in a certain way. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, that's the door to an Imperial shuttle, like Tiberian. That's the door to which I own, which I bought without a door, because it's a lot cheaper that way. And I'm like, I'll find a door, and then you go on and look for a door, and they're like $80, $100. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not going to buy the door today. It's fine. It's up high. Nobody can see it. I'm looking at it, and in this box of what is mostly 2000 stuff.
Right, with plastic lightsabers.
Plastic lights, like 20 plastic lightsabers and tons.
And like paper plates and cups, right?
Paper plates and cups. Darth Maul everything cups and Darth Maul napkins and, just all that stuff, which I love. Darth Maul, I love all that. But I'm kind of on the vintage track. And here is this door, which is literally worth between $80 and $100. And it's not in the best shape, but I'm like, that's the door. And sure enough, I get on my stool and I stand up there and I pull down the shuttle, which I have on this high shelf, and it fits like it's on it right now. Now it's a little discolored. I need to do some, bathing and all that stuff, and also wash that thing on the shuttle. But yeah, other than that, it's great.
That is.
So it's a $100 find and a $60 buy, which I sold most of for $40. I mean, that's trading right there. That's how it happens.
It was meant to be.
There it is.
That's how I love stories like that.
Yeah, just crazy. And I could have missed it. It was just in the bottom with the napkins. It was just crazy, like a whole birthday party and a shuttle door. Look it up on eBay. Look up the Imperial Shuttle, 83 or 2, I forget. Well, anyway, from Jedi.
That's perfect. That's a great.
Thank you.
That's a great story. I've really enjoyed meeting people.
Now you're the social one. With you go out and you meet people.
Yes, and that's expensive sometimes, but it's fun. I do like meeting the people. I like to get to know what they're into because I love being able to get or give or point somebody in the direction of finding something that they need.
Right.
Not that necessarily, like, if they want it, that's cool, but I'm looking for this, and I happen to have what you need. Like, I love that. Even if I take a hit on the price sometimes, getting it to the person that it's supposed to go to, for me, is very satisfying. And so, like, I've met a ton of cool people. This guy named Paul up in Tacoma, he's got this sweet little family. He's a younger guy, but he just loves Star Wars, and he collects, and he does what we do. He buys a lot of things at once, and then
Right.
keeps what he wants, and then resells what he doesn't, and so, met that dude. He's awesome. Aaron from the Oregon Outpost, who sets up 2 meets. By meets, I mean get-togethers every year for people that collect Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers.
Yeah, that's really
Teenage
cool.
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's very cool.
And so I've gotten to go down and see one of those and hang out with those guys, and they're all super nice, and they have their things that they collect, and I have my things. We talk about it, and hey, you got any of these? Or yeah, I got that, and I got some posters out of that deal, and one of the coolest things that it was a throw-in. I bought a whole bunch of stuff from a guy who unfortunately was kind of coming on some hard luck, and he needed some cash. And those are kind of sad, but they are opportunities, and they do happen. And you hate to see people getting rid of things that they love, but you also understand that you're also getting them money to keep their head above water. And you're helping them out, even though you don't feel great about it. At least I don't. But I bought a bunch of stuff from a guy who was unloading a bunch of stuff, and he threw in a poster. It was a 1980 remake of A New Hope movie poster. And it turns out it's about $200. But he just threw it in. Like, he just threw it in, like, because I was taking all the stuff off of his hands, and it was
you were
like,
paying,
and I was paying, and it was like he could hang on to this and try and, but it would be the only Star Wars thing he had left in his house, which I would understand if he wanted to keep it, but he was like, you know what, take this too.
Why not just complete
and so it was like, man, thanks. He helped me out when he didn't even need to, and it was like, that was a couple bucks he probably could have got more. And
But the good thing is you take a collection like that, you take what you want out of it, you keep the cool stuff, and then you pass it on. None of this stuff goes to waste. That's why I was, tongue in cheek and like saying, hey, I threw a few things away. The only reason I threw them away is because they were for one thing, they were newer, and for another, nobody else would take them. But I shared all that just like you did. I shared that with like my brother and his son. I mean, you got to pass that stuff forward. There's some people out there that do some great things, even with the even the kind of beat up stuff. So and by beat up, I mean like unrecoverable. Because we keep the beat up stuff too.
Yes, we do. We do. We try and fix them up, clean them up, wash them up, give them a fresh coat of paint. Not literally, but maybe throw on a sticker or two. But
a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, whatever.
The best $10 I've ever spent on a Star Wars item was
cookie jar.
No. Although that was
tease you about the cookie jar.
That was $20. He has a lot of
cookies.
That cookie jar was $20. Is the R2 for those of you guys that know how awesome
how beautiful the R2
1977 ceramic R2 cookie jar is.
On his kitchen sink, by the way, on his kitchen counter.
Yeah, it's usable. That was $20. I'm talking about the best $10 I've ever spent.
Sorry,
that's a different podcast.
I misheard you,
Josh.
Let's go for the $20 podcast next week.
Next week we'll ramp it up. Best $10 I've ever spent was on a Exogorth snow globe. Now, Josh, you might be asking yourself, what is an Exogorth?
What the hell's an Exogorth?
And Josh, I'd like to tell you that in Empire Strikes Back, Han flew his Millennium Falcon into an asteroid.
He did.
Cave, or so he thought.
But
it ended up being a worm.
And that space worm.
That worm is called an Exogorth, and
really, it is.
That is called an Exogorth.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and so
I knew the Minox.
Yeah, they live in
the Exogorth.
Yeah,
what a terrible name for that giant beast.
It's like a pilot fish on a shark.
It doesn't sound as intimidating. You're like, dude, man, I almost got chomped by an Exogorth.
And you're like, what's that? And it's like, it's an asteroid worm. Like, I had that once, it itched. But no, there's this. It's just the head of the Exogorth.
It's beautiful,
and its mouth is open, agape, you might say. And there is a little. It's not even very big. When I say snow globe, it's about the size of a rubber bouncy ball.
Right.
And it's got a little Millennium Falcon inside it with 12 sand grains that if you shake up, it will.
It's gorgeous, man. And your wife loved it.
She thought it was so stupid. Like you went You drove 45 minutes to go pick that up. Just that.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I did.
It's fantastic.
Yes, I did.
And Christmas is almost
And
upon us.
by the way, it is the holiday season, Josh.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine with just the fire and
On the
tree?
mantle.
Oh, and just a shaking up the Exogorth.
Tova, will you go shake up the snow globe? Anyway,
good. It's a good find.
That was my $10 hit, home run. I'd like to call
Home
it.
run, I would too.
Josh, do you have a final Star Wars thought of the day?
Yeah. No. Yes and no. I mean, I don't know where you want to go with this. We talk Star Wars all the time, so
I know I have a definite.
then do it.
Okay.
I'll let you take it, and then we'll bring her home.
About a month ago, I watched about a 24-minute Old Republic video on YouTube. And when I say Old Republic, it was the cut takes from the video game.
Yep.
And they were all strung together. And
Fantastic.
it was incredible. I've not played this game.
Sure.
I don't play a lot of video games as much as I used to, and stupid kids. But I watched this 24-minute video, and I was instantly hooked. I'm in. Like, give me a whole 2-hour movie of this.
Right.
Like, I am in. The characters were compelling. The graphics were awesome. The moves that they were doing, like everything, I was hooked. I was in from the first minute, man. It was awesome. And then let me backtrack. The lightsaber scenes in this, whether they were Jedi, whether they were Sith, they were awesome.
Yeah.
And you can do so much more with a CGI character, an animated character,
Sure.
and what they can do. And it's just beyond the realm of possible, but it is so cool. Like what they were doing. Like I said, I couldn't have been more excited watching just the cut takes from from a video game. Like
Right.
It was 24 minutes long. Give me 2 hours of that, and I will pay hard earned to watch it.
Remember when I showed you Force Unleashed?
Yes.
I mean, that's what kind of drives me a little crazy is that the writers, the designers, the concept makers, whatever, that created these video games, like Old Republic, like Force Unleashed, I mean, their vision is just so awesome. I mean, when you saw, oh gosh, what's his name? It's like Dark Side. What? I'm sorry. I know nerds out there, you're hating me, but when he pulls the Star Destroyer down from space, you're like, that's like screw you, Yoda. X-wing, what?
Yes.
I mean, and it's just fantastic, and you want to see, like, that's what you want to see, and I think that's what they're kind of doing with the Clone Wars. Those series, like, let's expand this. Like, the powers are outrageous, and
I think it won't be very long before we get some Old Republic stuff going.
Have to. I mean, they have there's a lot of, and I don't know. I never played that game either. I tried, and my computer wasn't fast enough. All the stuff I tried to play it, couldn't afford it.
Here's maybe a weird connection to make with it. Like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings were, like, if you've read the books,
sure,
and you've seen the movies, you know how awesome that is.
Sure.
But there's a book that came out before that in the timeline. It came out before that. It's called the Silmarillion. And
Silmarillion. I know. That's what I call it. The Silmarillion.
Have we been drinking?
No, the
I
Silmarillion.
love you, man.
Silmarillion. Yeah, that's like the Bible. It's hard to read.
It is. It's hard to read, but it is really cool, and it has some very cool people in it, and you get some of the history.
And the Lord of the Rings was only 3 pages of that whole book.
Right.
Like the timeline.
Like the very end. Yeah. Like, and
it's and there was the War of the Ring.
And there was that, there was that piece of history. So I'm thinking, like, the Old Republic is right now kind of has the same reputation as the Silmarillion, and in that it's out there and it's kind of cool and it's like nobody knows a ton about it, but we're kind of starting with these video games with some of the they just randomly throw out a figure of an Old Republic character every now and then.
Well, that's what they're doing with the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Like, all of a sudden you're getting this random character,
Yeah, and so so we're starting to kind of go backwards now. Now that we've gone forwards with the movies,
Right.
like after Return of the Jedi, we've gone in the post trilogy. Now I think we're going to start making moves prior to.
Looks like there's a lot of story back there.
And there's just enough out there to where you have to hit on a couple of things on the timeline, but it's basically wide open, and you can do whatever you want with that information. But again, circling back to my final thought, that video game cut takes was so awesome, and you were saying the same thing about Battlefront.
Battlefront
2.
is fantastic. I was just telling you, I'm like, you just got to sit down and play the campaign to watch the cutscenes.
Yeah,
it's just a good. I mean, the Battle of Jakku, I flew around it and got my ass kicked because I was just looking at the scenery. I was like, this is fantastic. There's a Star Destroyer going down. Is that the one Rey flew through? I mean, all this stuff is happening, and I'm just getting blasted by TIE fighters or whatever's happening. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Plus, I read the Aftermath books, so in those books, there's something going on the ground too. Which there's this whole underlying plot. It's just really cool. I'm more excited for the creators of. That's why that Mandalorian is really intriguing to me, because I think they might be taking what we're talking about, like the really cool stuff that's created by these video games or these comic books or the books themselves, which sometimes have to follow the screen writing to stay in play. But man, if you could have that wild Rogue One-esque kind of attack on this universe, it's that, to me, Disney knows what they need to do, and they're doing it already with the Avengers series. They know they need to go off the res a little bit and not be so straight to the with Marvel. They're a little tongue in cheek now. The heroes don't take themselves so seriously, but they kick ass when they do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think if they can temper that a little better, it's hard with the Star Wars canon, but if they can temper that a little better, we'll get some really good shows. And I'll say it again, if they just do Rogue One 10 more times,
yeah,
I would be happy.
Yeah. Well, Josh,
I think we're good.
We are good.
What the heck? You are good.
We're on it.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for joining us for first episode of the Holochronicles.
Loved it.
That was fun.
Listen to the next one when we come out with it. Hey, who knows what that's going to be about? We'll let you know when we get there. Josh, it's been a pleasure.
Andy, thank you, sir. BMP.